Oh no, we are not doing it this way. Steve just wanted to lure you into a false sense of security, using this poor, adorable little robot kitty to death. That there's a new print available on their Patreon account for the next few days. So if you become a Patreon by the end of August, you'll be able to get a hold of this sweet crying GMK print. But time is running out, so if you definitely want one, get on it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm about to go destroy this. Here's just one of Super Important Views. My name's Steve, and today I'll be going over some more Revoltech figures with these Revoltech Yamaguchi Zoids with the Geno Breaker and the Blade Locker from Zoids Guardian Force. So I was gonna actually review some possibly other Ultraman figures or those Godzilla Revoltechs I picked up a little while back, but these guys just recently came in and quite a few people on Facebook actually wanted to see these guys' reviews. So I figured I would just do these guys in the same review since they don't really have that many accessories technically, because really you have to actually assemble part of these guys out of the box is what's going on here. And we'll get to the boxes here in a minute. But the main reason we picked these up is because my wife actually really loves Zoids. I remember actually watching a Cartoon Network and I remember the Blade Liger. Not this guy nearly as much. Like, I know he's like a Tyrannosaurus type. I know the gray version. His name's slipping my mind right now. It's Geno something, I think anyways. But yeah, this guy looks super sweet. So when we saw these guys pop up pre-owned, I decided to just grab them for her. And she seems pretty happy with them, especially the cute little Blady Liger right here. Anyways, without further ado, further packaging. First, you'll see that they're still outside of the packaging because you have to assemble them, so I didn't really want to disassemble them to put them back in here. But as you can see with the boxes, they are ridiculously huge. Unnecessarily huge, I would say, because you can see the figures here. Like him, I sort of understand, but the Liger here is mostly like standard Revoltech size, so, and he was disassembled in there, so why the need for so much extra air inside of this box? Like, you even have like, he comes with a bunch of like 2-point Revoltech coins that just go around the line here. You can see they're kind of just flailing around the side of the packaging, which they could have just stacked them, because like how thick this box is, it's definitely doable. And the reason why I'm complaining about the size is because these guys together cost me almost as much as shipping a gigantic. The X Plus is what I'm talking about, like my giant like 18-inch X Plus. These guys were close to the same price. Like, he was a little bit more. Like, I could get most X Plus figures cheaper than I got these two together. Heck, I think like the two Gabaras plus another figure ran me like $10 less than these. It was stupid. And I definitely see why now. Like, I knew they were bigger Revoltechs, but the boxes, like, there's nothing on the under sections here. Like, literally nothing. Like, you see everything inside of the package, so they could have just cut down on a lot of this. Like, do I really need to see all the coins here? Do I? Like, they could have just kept the writing there? Really? But anyways, the packaging does look nice though. I like the presentation. You got like their names on the side here, their numbers, Zoids, Revoltech Yamaguchi on the bottom. I also want to point out too that they're not just Kyotos, they are also Takara Tomy, the same people that do Transformers. But the top of the packaging is pretty much all the same for these guys, just different coloring, where you have Revoltechs on the side. This side you'd have the Blade Liger, which on the other one you have Geno Breaker. Opposite side just tells you what Revoltechs are and how they work. But on the back of the package, it just shows the figures in a bunch of dynamic poses, what they can do, and a lot of crap I can't understand, and some more Revoltech Lego Mumbo Jumbo on the bottom. So let's just get into the review. Alright, so first I'm going to go over these figures' accessories before I go over the actual figures themselves, and I'll show you, I believe it was this side I had to assemble, but I'll give you guys a little rundown on how to actually attach the limbs that come out of the packaging. But first and foremost, he comes with a pair of pliers, which is going to be used to help get some of the joints into the Liger. It's not really that useful to getting them out anyways, at least I don't think anyways. Let's see. Let's remove your leg joint for a minute. Maybe. Alright, got that off. Actually, this is a really bad joint to start with, but we'll try it. So we're going to straighten it up. Man, I guess it does help you try to get those out of there a little bit, because I was mainly using them to help give me more leverage to get it into the joint, because some of these joints were super stiff. So outside of a hairdryer, it was not really working out for me very well. But what you're gonna have to do is, in the joint, the legs actually have joints already put into them. Plus you'll have the joints actually sticking off of the Liger too. So when getting them out, you're gonna want to go up from the leg here, as you've seen how I did it kind of backwards here. You just kind of got to do that, but use the little pliers helps a lot with that, because here, I'll even show you. Got these in, just use the pliers, grab a hold of it. You can also use it from the side. What this does is it just helps to not alleviate pressure on the middle of the joint, so you're going right at the base. And then you just start wiggling it up until it is removed from the leg. Pretty simple to do. And you're just gonna have to do that for the two legs that come inside of the packaging, because they won't be attached to the Liger. And same with the tail, but the tail joint is a little terrifying because it is just this very, very tiny little ratchet joint. Also, my cat's yelling at things right now. So this one was actually stupid hard to get in here. And the pliers for this one is nearly worthless. So this one you're just going to have to wiggle it in and kind of hope for the best. But just be very careful with it because it is thin. I imagine it could break very easily. And you will also have to attach the blades to him as well. Which, these are just on a peg, so they just swing back and forth. Just a wee little peg. You just slide it over top, apply pressure downwards, goes in there very easily, and then you just kind of tuck it behind the leg here. And now I have to go and tell my cat to stop yelling at the receipts. She likes to play with receipts and tinfoil. So I was working on things, so she knocks it out the table and smacks them around until I go and tell her no. But the pliers for the Liger are just these gold ones. The Geno Breaker comes with a pair of silver ones. They both come with their own little cases for your Revoltech points, which for each of them, you get 20. With the Blade Liger here, you get 10 of these little 2-point ones, which yes, I'm Rich Rangers. I don't understand why they just didn't give us 2 10s. Like just grabbing the one I have for the Geno Breaker. It definitely came with a 10-point one, which is pretty standard for what I see with a lot of these. Well, Mr. Liger here, Mr. Fancy Pants, came with 10 of these 2-pointers. Which again, could have just stacked in there. Could have just gave me 2 of these. But no, they decided that that was way more necessary. Thanks. Still wish I could actually use these things. I got so many laying around now. I could have all the figures. And then for Mr. Geno Breaker here, you're going to have to attach his leg, his foot, and the gun outside of the packaging. And also his X breakers here on the top. But you do get a pair of these guys. Which is not the easiest thing to get in here. Because again, I kind of like that it came with the pliers. Because when I'm trying to get that into there, it wasn't the easiest for me. So how I did it, I actually just took the joint off altogether. And then using the pliers, just insert the pliers into there so I can just kind of apply pressure straight into the joint. Which made it so much easier than this just slides pretty much right back on. And yeah, that's just pretty simple stuff. Now it's just fighting with the Revoltech joints in order to get it back into the position that you wanted it to. Because again, these are all ratchet joints and some of them slide off a little bit more easy than others. So posability. If you guys have seen my Revoltech reviews, they're more on the frustrating side, but I still like the molds usually enough to merit the wonky articulation, which for these guys in general, there's a lot. There's a lot of joints on each of these figures. Again, I'll go over the Blade Liger here first, but for his final accessory, he comes with a little extendy arm, which what you do is you want to get the forearm out of the shoulder here, which not exactly what I wanted. And this is where we take this into account. There we go. Now, gotta attach this back into the arm because why is it a different shade? Anyways, get this back into here because it comes with this. Just it kind of looks like a straw for the most part. Oh, actually, I think you just take the joint out. Never mind, I'm dumb. For some odd reason, I kept thinking that the straw actually like went over top. I'm gonna call it a straw, but I guess not. So this bending part is gonna go into the arm. So when it's sticking out, it looks kind of straight, and then you just insert this into the hand. Now,
we got his little stretchy grabby hand. Kind of gives him that get over here kind of feel to him. Very Mortal Kombat-y. Actually, I like this a lot. I kind of just want to pose him with like these out, the cannon, and just like all the weapons all the time. So yeah, that's pretty neat. It just kind of confused me because again, this guy's kind of new to me. So when I seen this little just gray bar inside of the package, I was like, is that his stand? Because for the Blade Liger anyways, he actually comes with a stand, which you just you're gonna have to assemble it. It's pretty easy to do. And right underneath his little chest cannon, insert that into there. You know what? It might just be safer. We're gonna use the pliers since we got them. So, kind of looks like I gotta go in at an angle. So it's kind of end up giving our Liger, you know what? I'm not even gonna finish that sentence. But insert that into there. Now our Liger, yeah, you guys get it. Insert it into the top here. Slides right in. And now our Liger can fly. It's going to be helpful, especially if you're going to be wanting him like on top of the Geno Breaker. So it's really cool that he was at least incorporated with the stand. Geno Breaker doesn't really need it, even though he can actually do the cannon while in the air. So that would have been maybe cool to see. But not quite necessary for him anyways. And then for a little bit of a closer look at the Blade Liger's details. Phenomenal. Like this is probably easily the most detailed Revoltech I have ever actually owned. Because you can see here all the little nubs, the tubes, working parts, pistons, metal plates, you name it. This Liger has definitely got it. For the head sculpt, looks awesome. Love the metallic gold there for the cockpit. He's got his little mane, I guess is what this is called, sticking off of the sides here. With some metallic blue for the overall chassis of the mech. With, it looks like just gloss whites for the little detailing sections of the armor plating, especially right here for the vents on the sides of the Liger's legs. And then some metallic silver here for the intersectionings of the body, and gloss black for the leg joints, the underbarrel cannon that isn't sitting right now, his thrusters on the back here, and for the majority of his tail. Which the only other gold on here is for mainly the blade accessory and for his many teeth, which are gigantic. I actually like too that he came packaged with foam inside of his mouth, so you don't have to worry about these coming to damage, which was really nice to see. But the sculpting on the inside of the mouth looks really great. Has this little plate on the undersection of the jaw that articulates too, so if you want to have his mouth open, you can shift it down and then you just close the mouth, bring up the little joint here to help cover up a lot of the other metal pieces. And then yeah, I'm not going to go over every single little point here, but you can just see all the little metal platings, the tubes running down to the back here. This plate lifts up to reveal his thrusters, which are on two little joints, so you can bring it up, lift it up, and then articulate it however you want, which is really sweet. It has blades here on the sides, which detail-wise, they didn't skip a beat. You may have some little bit of metallic gold here for the supports for the blade. And then these can actually articulate to the sides, and then you can shift it out to actually have the blade sticking out from the side, just like you've seen on the anime. And then these also have a little bit of a hinge, so they can shift back and forth here as well to give you a little bit added posability, especially when you want to retract them into the body. But for the back legs, they got a little bit of a larger armor plate here for the top of the thigh, and a little bit of extra metal sticking out on the back here with this larger calf thing going on towards the rear. For the lower part of the legs, you got some metallic silver there for the springs, some gold here for some of the pistons on the front, a little bit of white here for the armor plating over top of the paws, with some metallic gold here for the claws. And yeah, this mech just looks super complicated and complex in terms of just all the armor plating. Like, Gundam, eat your heart out. Like, for robot spirits, I don't know if any of mine anyways have more detail than what I see on this guy. Because even the cannon on the undersection here is done in a jet black, which is probably the most blandest looking thing on the entire mech, but still pretty cool. Can also articulate it side to side if you want, but it's a little bit more of a pain because of these little brackets here on the back. Then for his tail, done in metallic silver with small little ratchet joints going out throughout the tail, with his metallic blue and gloss white tail tip, which kind of looks like a little ship. Even got like some black here for the tip, so it looks like it just go flying around if it really wanted to. And detail wise, this thing is phenomenal. Articulation wise though, can be a bit frustrating. Both of these guys can be a bit frustrating, but for him anyways, his ears can go up and down, or the mane, whatever you want to call this. These can articulate out too as well, side to side, a little bit of shimmy back and forth, but it's not the easiest thing to do. Again, his mouth can open about that far, close about that far. You got the plate on the intersection here that can also articulate. And then back here too, this little plate can shift up and down as well. But his head can go up about that far. Looks about down about that far. Can shimmy a little bit to the left and to the right. And can rotate side to side. For his legs, can pretty much rotate all the way around if you want them to. They're on a double hinge ratchet joint, so you can shift it a little bit inwards and outwards from the body. But you can only go in one direction at a time. So if you want to have it swiveling to the sides, you're going to have to actually rotate the joint here. And then that'll give you more play with the arm here anyways. Because you can swivel it a little bit side to side, but nothing too major there. So if you want to add articulation, you'll have to move it around. Then for the elbow joint, can bend backwards about that far, inwards about that far. The paws can bend forward and back as well. They're on a double hinge ratchet joint as well, with a little bit of rotation there at each of them. The gun in the under section can bend upwards about that far, downwards about that far, and then rotate side to side. But just be very careful of the little bars in the back here. For his jetpack, can lift the armor plating up here and can articulate upwards about that far, inwards about that far. And then if you have it stretched up, his waist can go up about that far, down about that far, and there's 2 joints here total, so you can get pretty crazy play there. Can swing a little bit side to side. For his hind legs, exact same articulation as the front legs. For his tail, has little ratchet, well, not really ratchet joints, these are just standard, so they can bend in one direction, and then you have to actually rotate the joint, which again, be pretty careful with it if you want it swinging side to side. And you have to do that with each of these going up into the little tip of the tail here. Then for his blades on the sides, again, you can rotate these forward and back. They do come off the peg very easily though. And then you can swing them down to the side of the body, and then they can also rotate a little bit, which is primarily here just to get it to look retracted behind the leg. But when it's out anyways, you can rotate it a little bit side to side in order to line up the blade. Now, for the Geno Breaker, definitely the most impressive looking of the two in terms of just scale. This is easily the heaviest Revoltech that I own. Next to probably the Vector Cannon Jehute is a pretty hefty figure, but this guy just kind of dwarfs him in terms of just overall body size. But yeah, starting for the head, looks great. The eyes kind of blend in with the body a little bit though, but that's just kind of how it was in the anime too, so not gonna really knock it too much for that. It's more of just a design thing than anything. Actually, some translucent red maybe would actually be really nice there. But has a lot of metallic silver here for some of the protrusion, with some gunmetal for the back plating sections, and for the little bit of armor plating on the back of his neck. Same with his teeth are done in a metallic silver, which you got some black here for the undersection of the jaw and on the top too. But he has his particle cannon, which you can actually get him to do, but it's at a weird angle though. Like, I kind of wish it was more towards the throat, but I understand in terms of the articulation why it's sitting there. And for the rest of his body, he's done in a metallic red color scheme with some more of that gunmetal and silver kind of spread out through each of the joints, especially with his feet here on the bottom with those stupid huge claws. And the back sections here can articulate too, which I kind of wish this was maybe a little bit of a stiffer joint here to help kind of balance him out a little bit. Like, especially once you get the X-breakers out, you could definitely get him standing pretty well by himself. But when everything's retracted, he's a little bit back heavy with his little guns on the side of his legs. And then you can see on the front of his legs too, he has a bunch of vents on the fronts, on the sides, which are a different color. That's weird. That's actually sort of yellow, like it's almost like a dull copper. on the sides here, while on the front, that's pretty black. Huh. Neat. Moving down his neck, though, you have his little plates on the top here, which generally would actually stick up a little more when you get him into his charged particle form. But for these, they don't actually articulate, but looks really good. It's still just a lot of armor plating on here, especially like this part would have bent out too, but doesn't actually do that on the figure. For his tiny little T-Rex claws, has 3 little claws on the front sections here, with what kind of looks like a little blade on the undersection of the forearm. For his body, very slender, with some more jet black here for some of the tubing and armor plating here on the chest and on the back as well. And then for his back X breakers, which are actually really cool looking. What they are is it's a giant shield with these little pincers that shoot out from the undersection here, which to my understanding, because I had to look up some more information on this guy, that and yeah, it's a little loose right now. But this is primarily designed to combat the Blade Liger, because the Blade Liger was so good against the other versions. I know the Blade Liger eventually overcomes this form, but still pretty cool that they just decided to make a T-Rex with little crab pincers that shoots out the sides here, which both sides can stick out pretty far. Just getting this one set up as well. This one actually holds its pose a little bit better than this one. Guess I just didn't have it tightened enough. Now it's holding its pose pretty well. But it does stick out pretty darn far. But the thing that's kind of annoying is these little bars do like to pop out from the sides here. But pretty cool little weapon attachment. Got some metallic red here for the top section, a little bit of black here for some of the vents, and some gunmetal here for the back section with the blades done in metallic silver. Now, for the back here too, you get his thruster pack, which can articulate to set it up more for flight and the particle cannon poses. But again, looks awesome. Just really helps to just give this guy even more detail than he already had. Then moving to the back of his legs real quick, you can actually lift up this armor plate here to reveal the thrusters on the back of his legs here as well. Then he has some more here too on the back of his thigh. And then for his tail, you get some jet black here for the tubes here for the particle cannon, which for each of these little armor platings, you can actually shift them up and down. The first one, though, actually has 2 sections for the vents. So you can lift these up, and then for each of these, you can bring them down as well. Takes a second, but once you get all of these upwards anyways, now you can set them up to be actually in his charged particle cannon form. So you can have these, technically are supposed to be like on the side, kind of like that-ish. And that's pretty much how you set him up in his particle cannon form, which looks really cool. Gives him even more play value and more posability to do on your shelf. So I'm always down for stuff like that. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it for his details. Articulation, as you can see, the back claws here can pretty much just go wherever you want, but they stretch out about that far from the body. And then again, pretty much anything on a peg on this guy, they come off easy. It's just plain and simple. But still looks really cool. And then these just retract just like you saw originally. These parts actually lift up on here as well, but they only go upwards and down. And I'm actually going to pop this off just to show you guys the rest of the articulation so that's not really getting in the way. But for his head, he can look up about that far. Can we get the back one a little bit more? Yeah. So he can look up about that far. Downwards about yay far. Can rotate side to side. Same with on the back here as well. His mouth can open about that far. Can also rotate a little bit side to side too as well if you really wanted to. Closes about that far. For his arms, can rotate most all the way around. Can pivot side to side. Has a really nice bend here at the elbow. Also a rotation at the elbow. The claws can pretty much open about that far. Closes about that far. Then for his chest area, you can actually lift this up if you wanted to, which is primarily here just to help kind of line up the platings a little bit better when you're having to articulate downward. But I feel like that joint popped out a little bit more. You can shift downwards about that far, upwards about that far. Oh, get one more little ratchet into him. So he can rear up pretty nicely. For his legs, can rotate all the way around, move inwards and outwards. But these are just done on a single ratchet joint, so you can only really rotate them each. And if you want to go side to side, you have to, again, fidget around with that joint in order to get it to where it'll shift for you. At the knees, can bend back about that far, straighten up about that far. The plate on the front here can't really move. Then for his feet, can move forward about that far, backwards about that far. Once you shimmy the toes anyways, can wiggle side to side. The toes can also articulate on the back section anyways. Same with this little claw thingy here, can move back and forth. Gun can rotate all the way around. The armor plating back here can shift up and down, but nothing underneath can articulate. And then for his tail, can go up about that far, down about that far. And then each of these can also rotate side to side if you want it to. So you get a ton of play there as well. And if you want it moving up and down, again, just articulate the joints around in order to get it to shimmy a little bit up and down. But you're not going to get nearly as much motion out of these going up and down as you would side to side, so I'm probably just going to leave mine like that. So here are the Revoltech Yamaguchi Zoid figures compared next to some other Revoltech figures with Mothra and Baragon. And here they are compared next to the Revoltech Zone of the Enders Jehute with Vector Cannon and Anubis. And here they are with some SH Figure Arts figures, well, sort of, with King Joe from Ultraman, specifically Ultra 7, and the Ultra Act X SH Figure Arts Bemular. And here they are with some Godzilla, again, sort of figures with the SH Monster Arts Burning Godzilla and the Ryobot Shiryu. And because it's mandatory for Revoltech reviews, here they are next to the bootleg Revoltech Woody. He loves you. So overall with the Revoltech Yamaguchi, Zoids, Geno Breaker, and Blade Liger, these figures look amazing. Detail-wise, easily some of the coolest looking figures in my collection with nothing really seemingly missing on any of these guys for the most part. Maybe like a couple little extra plates for the Geno Breaker so that the particle cannon could look a little cooler. But for the most part, nothing really to complain about. But where I can complain though is with the unnecessary size of the box really adds to the overall shipping charges for this guy. Especially since he's not that much bigger than most of Monster Arts yet. His packaging is easily some of the biggest for standard action figures that I have in my collection. Also, some of the joints on these guys tend to pop off pretty easy, but that's just standard fare for most action figures. And with these figures having ratchet joints, the articulation can be a little bit frustrating, but on a high note, they generally hold their poses very well. So for these guys, after shipping, they cost me about $100. Initially, I got them for like less than 60, but the shipping really jacked up the price on these guys. And for that price, they definitely feel worth it. They're easily the most impressive looking Revoltechs in my collection, and easily some of the more impressive action figures in my collection. So if you guys are a big fan of Zoids and Revoltechs, these guys are easily up your alley. For the price I paid, definitely feel worth it. So if you guys can pick them up with shipping for in the $100 range for the pair, like about $50 a piece, I would definitely go for it. But what do you guys think? Have you guys picked up these Revoltech Zoids? What's your favorite Zoid mecha, or is Pokemon just more your thing? Please let us know in the comments. Look closer picture of these guys on our website if you want to click the link in the description below. We also have our Patreon account if you guys like to help support the channel, get exclusive prints down in the description below, and help us defeat those kaijus by hitting that like button, subscribe, become a ranger today, and see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.